Hoardganize Podcast. I am your host, professional organizer Rachel Seavey, and it's time to get organized. Hey, collectors, welcome to the Hoardganize Podcast. I am here with Bill. He has agreed to be coached and to share his clutter journey with you here on the podcast. I'm super happy to have you here, Bill. It's really hard for people to do this sort of thing. So I just want to acknowledge how brave you are and thank you for being here.
Well, my life has been an open book for decades, so it really doesn't bother me. I stick out like a sore thumb with my autism, so it's better to just come right out and tell people, hey, I'm special. But I take instruction very well, so speak up when I mess up, please, in as much detail as possible.
Okay, I definitely will. Well, I had the pleasure of getting to know you and chatting with you here before our session, but I wanted to just ask you some questions about yourself so that our listeners could learn a little bit more about you. What is it that you do for a living?
Well, I would love to be a cartoonist because I've won local, state, regional, and national awards for my work for the VCU student newspaper, but I actually work part-time as a janitor. I clean a building for first responders, so I've been working through the COVID thing.
Oh, wow. That's great.
I work part-time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And I'd love to show off a little bit of your work, if you don't mind, maybe as the icon for this podcast, because I've seen it and it's great. It's really great. I think people would love it. And now, how long do you feel like you've struggled with clutter?
Oh, as far back as I can remember, there was a brief period of time from about age 10 to age 12 or 13 where I kept my room very neatly and was even the only one cleaning my house. My mom was kind of depressed. I didn't find out for like a decade or so that my dad had a drinking problem. Nobody said, Bill, stop arguing with him. He's drunk. They just said, stop arguing with him, which made me think that they were taking his side.
Got it.
So if you have, don't assume that your family members know everything you know. They might be on the autism spectrum, just at the shallow end of it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
But I've been struggling with clutter as far back as I can remember.
Okay.
And I knew that if I just had somebody around doing their own thing, that I could deal with it. And one time back in 1 week, back in the late 80s, a roommate of mine sat down at my desk and did some paperwork. He said he would do it for a couple of days, but he found he was more effective too. He got more done sitting at my desk in my room while I cleaned up. And I got my room completely cleaned up that week.
Wow.
That was a long time ago, back when I really had only one room's worth of stuff.
And now you have 2 bedrooms, is that correct?
Well, it's technically a 1,300 square foot house, but that's only because it's got a 100 square foot screen porch, and they finished the attic as living space. So it's really a 600 square foot house that doesn't have an attic.
Oh, okay.
I have neither an attic nor a basement nor a garage. I now
Wow.
have friends who let me store things in their basement. I used to have less stuff than my dad had Christmas stuff, and then he had a stroke, and a lot of stuff got passed along to me, which is now in that basement mostly.
And so you feel that a lot of the stuff that you have there now is your dad's?
I know a lot of it is.
Okay. And do you feel like you're struggling with going through it, or have you gone through it before?
I am not struggling with it because
Mhm.
I have just been giving my friends $100 a month to keep things in the basement. It more than covers the electricity for the dehumidifier that runs down there. their basement gets flooded shallowly pretty much every time it rains hard. But the bottom layer, the bottom levels of my palletized stuff are all in very sturdy plastic bins. Nothing gets wet.
Good.
And the dehumidifier keeps things from getting mildewed.
Good. Well, how large is that storage area, would you say?
I'm using the space that's about 20 feet wide by about 30 feet long.
Okay.
I think I've got 6 or 8 pallets on the floor with things stacked up 4 or 5 feet high.
Now, when you say the things are stacked up, are they in an organized fashion within the bins
Well,
or yeah.
some of those bins I know, I just swept things into a bin and put it in a stack maybe years ago.
Mhm.
So I would guess about 15 to 20% of what's in storage is just junk.
Mhm. And I
Uh,
know when we spoke before, you mentioned that you had gone in the dumpster to rescue some of your dad's stuff.
well, they had thrown away a few dozen scale plastic models still in the shrink wrap that
Mm.
were decades old. I probably rescued a few $100s worth of stuff
Mhm.
in about 20 minutes.
And who was it that
And
threw?
it would take it's only 2 or 3 cubic feet of stuff, so it's not a lot. Out of all that stuff, there's not much.
Yeah. Yeah. And who was doing the cleaning out of your father's house who threw the stuff in the dumpster?
Well, it was the home of both my parents,
Mm-hmm.
and my family thinks so little of my judgment that they didn't tell me they were cleaning things out for about a week. When I showed up, there was a coal car sized dumpster
Mm.
uh, set down under a second story window, and they were throwing stuff out the window.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's not very nice. I unfortunately hear stories like that all the time. So, so you feel like a lot of the stuff at your home is your father's. What about the stuff in
I
your,
don't feel it. I think it.
you
I
know
mean,
it?
what
Okay.
how it feels is, well, it does feel that way also. It feels like a lot of stuff, and most days I don't think about it. I go over to my friend's home once a month to give them money for basically renting their basement. I used to pay more than twice that much for a 10 by 10 space.
Oh yeah.
So it's a tremendous bargain to be able to have that much space for so little.
No, I agree. I agree. And with not having a garage or an attic or a basement, it's nice that you do have a storage area for things that you aren't handling on a day-to-day
Hmm.
basis. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love my garage. I don't know what I'd do without it. I have a lot of, stuff that I camping and holiday stuff. And yeah, I don't know where it would live in my house.
Hmm.
So if I had a magic wand
Hmm.
and I could just wave it over your clutter, what would you wish for?
Well, um, I have about 4 shelf feet of LPs dating from the 50s and 60s that I'd like to sell to collectors. Uh, I would like to, I would want the magic wand to wave in stages. First, inventory. Give me a digital text document that lists everything. Uh, and pictures of everything would be good too. Uh, then I could start posting things. Oh, I can't remember the name of all the apps that have come out for selling things simply online, even locally.
Mhm.
There are alternatives to Craigslist, which My experience with Craigslist was for a little while trying to sell my services as a tutor of economics. I
Oh,
had one legitimate customer who I didn't impress, and then there was another one who turned out just to be a total scam artist.
yeah.
Didn't
So,
scam me for anything, didn't fool me for anything. I knew that, like, you're mailing me money orders that you want me to mail to somebody else. I'm not going to touch these things except with plastic gloves. I'm putting them in a drawer and I'm calling the police. And they said it's probably somebody in Australia.
oh my goodness. Wow. So have you sold anything online before?
Uh, I have not. That's
Okay.
another thing. I have heard horror stories. I have a friend at the local makerspace who sold an auto part assembly for a few $100s,
Mhm.
delivered it, the person received it, and then the person went to eBay or whoever it was to say, like, they didn't send it, give me my money back. And the money just vaporized.
Oh, wow.
So what I would have to do is I would have to have uh, I've got friends who are disabled who could sit and watch my eBay account, and as soon as something's sold and the money moves into my eBay account, immediately transfer the money to another account so it can't be grabbed. If they try to grab the money, if they have a legitimate complaint, like it wasn't delivered, and I can go to package tracking and discover it disappeared, then I can approach the delivery people. Hey, I had this thing insured, pay up, and I can give that person back their money, but they can't just fleece me.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
there's that. There's a matter of taking good photographs of things.
mhm.
Uh, I would have, and I know what I have. There are so many steps to selling anything.
Mhm.
Um, some things I know can go cheaply for $5 or $10, and those are the things I would want to sell first to establish the rating as a seller.
Okay. That makes
Uh,
sense.
and I have a few things that are worth hundreds of dollars.
Mhm.
Um, I can go online and look for the same thing being sold at auction or whatever and see what it's going for, what the buy it now price is. I can tell. Um, I actually sold a few Star Trek related books to a local friend who is a big fan, and he actually paid me more than I would have gotten online because I was saving him shipping charges. I just handed them
Mhm.
to him and he handed me the money.
Yeah. Is there a local record store?
I know that there is at least one record store. I don't know what kind of, I would first want to take a partial inventory, just
Mhm.
uh, write down the artist and album for a couple dozen albums, look them up online, and get some idea how much collectors are paying for them. Then
Yep.
I could count the number of albums, figure, okay, roughly that many more, roughly that average price, and then find out what they would retail for. And then a if a store offered me 50%, I know that would be reasonable because uh, retail stores typically have to mark things up 100%
Mhm.
to cover all their costs.
Yeah.
One of their biggest costs is waiting for somebody to come in and buy something. I have a friend who he and his wife had a gaming store for years, and it was a struggle, and they finally gave up. So I know retail is tough. And I always try to be really nice to retail people.
Yeah. No, that's
It's the
great.
only field where the people who do more emotional labor get paid less.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. So it sounds like you've done a lot of research
Well,
and
I've done a lot of thinking. I've done no
thinking
research, but thank
thinking
you. That's
about
very
how to
broad of
do
you.
it. Well, that's good. I mean, you're further ahead than a lot of other people that I've asked the same question to. Now, what is getting in the way of you getting this done?
Um, Facing it alone.
facing it alone.
I simply can't do it by myself. I need a friend to come along and just sit there reading a book or playing with their phone while I go through stuff. Lately, over the last few weeks, I've been getting together on the phone with a local friend from the Adventures in ADD meetup group. We both have attention deficit, and I've noticed going to meetings, a lot of us have much the same problem. We can't deal with clutter, but we can deal with it by ourselves, but we can deal with it a lot better if someone is simply there. There's a local uh, organizer person who calls it body doubling.
Yes.
And I get on the phone with Kate, and she uh, sends me a photo of what she's working on, generally papers on a table, before and after. And I do the same thing. I have a photo of how much, I don't know if I sent you a before picture, but in my bedroom, I used to have just a narrow path through clutter on the floor, and I have widened it considerably.
Good.
I still have a rolled up rug that I need to take to the dump, but I don't have a pickup truck. And I also have a large desk that I want to take to the dump, but it's barricaded behind boxes and chairs, and it's got stuff in the drawers and stuff on top of it. So I've got a lot of things that I need somebody present for. But
Okay.
for 15 minutes, even half an hour at a time, uh, I can be on the phone with Kate and I can actually get stuff done because I'm talking with her and she's talking with me as we work.
That's
I would
wonderful.
like to do that 15 minutes every day, but and I've told her I want to do this more often, gradually work up to 15
Mhm.
minutes a day. But we really haven't gotten anywhere. I think we're still stuck at once a week. Maybe
Oh,
I think we might have gotten together twice in 1 week.
well, that's still really good.
I've got a roommate who's the best roommate I've ever had, but the trouble is he's very comfortable with the clutter. So
Is he?
uh, he just, yes, he is.
Okay.
He's just grateful to be off the street. I met him through tabletop role playing back in 2013. He has struggled to keep a job because of something in his distant past, which
Mhm.
is no reflection on him. And his wife finally got tired of that and threw him out. He was on the street for a year.
Oh my God.
Well, I brought him in, like, I forget whether it's 2 or 3 years ago now, but he's easily the best roommate I've ever had. He pays the $300 rent for the upstairs room on time every time. He cooks, he cleans, he keeps up with the yard better than I ever did.
Aw.
The cats like him. He likes the cats. He waters my plants. Uh, he's the only one who's done the vacuuming in the last couple of years, I think. I'm just
Wow.
relieved to not have to do everything myself.
Yeah, he sounds great. He sounds like a wonderful roommate.
Oh,
Now,
he is. He's a great
going
guy.
going back to your adventures in ADD, is this something that's only local to your where you live out there? I know you're on the East
Well,
Coast.
we do have local meetings, though lately, of course, we've been meeting third Tuesday of every month online with Zoom.
Okay.
Um, we used to meet locally. The last place we were meeting physically is a church I've been going to in um, west end of downtown Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very welcoming church that I think they even have a furry. I remember at the uh, ministry fair there was somebody in a fursuit and sneakers.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So like I suspect that two of the members of one of my Sunday school groups were gay, and nobody ever
Good.
said anything. It was just like who cares? We've got black people there, which is an absolute miracle for a mostly white church.
Yep.
Um, but oh, where was I going with this?
We were talking about adventures in
Sorry.
ADD, and it's okay. That's
Oh,
where you're.
right. Irony. I
It
forgot
is.
because
It is.
I'm scatterbrained.
You're so cute. That's
Yes. Well,
okay.
we've had couple of hundred people across the country show interest in the group, and the
Yeah.
meetup people have told us that we're easily the longest lasting ADD themed meetup group. We've been going for over 10 years. Uh, and the other groups just generally fizzle out after a year. And I think I know why. If you ever start a meetup group, pass a hat or a box with a slot in it, because one person is going to get very tired very fast of paying the
Mm.
$10 or $15 a month it costs to have a meetup group.
Yeah.
But if everybody chips in the dollar, then it's light work.
No, that's great. And I know a lot of the people I work with and a lot of the listeners have ADD.
Hmm.
And I think just that resource in itself is helpful, that there's places out there where you can meet other people.
Hmm.
And I love that you're doing the body doubling with Kate.
Hmm.
That is something I recommend to my clients a lot.
We were
And
going back and forth to each other's house in person until
wow.
COVID blew up. And it
Wow.
took us a while to get the phone thing going.
Yeah, that's phenomenal that you have that resource. I love that. And body doubling is when somebody is there just
Hmm.
giving you support.
It could be somebody who doesn't have use of their hands. It could be they could do their knitting, their fly tying. I've been saying this for decades. It's all I've needed. I absolutely could not get any help from another church I'd been going to. I never could figure out why. They never told me why. One of the pastors even said one time, not only am I not going to recommend anybody to help you, I'm going to recommend people not help you. But he wouldn't tell me why.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's so hard. That's so hard. And now tell me about this rolled up rug that needs to go to the dump. Is there
Well,
anything on top of it?
there's a little bit of stuff on top of it, but the trouble is, it's the length of the room. And again, I can't just put it in my car. I don't have any friends with a truck. Well, the one
Mhm.
friend I have with a truck says that I could rent a truck for $25 from, I think, one of the
U-Haul
maybe
or
Home Depot. No,
yeah.
this all I need is a pickup truck. I don't need a moving truck.
Okay.
I could put the desk and the rug in the back of a pickup truck with my roommate, drive to the dump, unload them, drive back, drop the pickup truck back at Home Depot, drive my car away. It would
Eh,
be that easy, but it's going to getting the rug out would be a way easier than getting the desk out. The desk is about 3 feet by 5 feet and about 3 feet high. It's got stuff stacked on it. It's got stuff in the drawers. I'd have to find homes for all that stuff, and
mhm.
I'd also have to clear out um, just stacks of things. That room is Tetris right now.
Yeah.
I would have to find space for a whole bunch of stuff that I don't have space for. There are some things that I could get rid of pretty easily. I think one of the easiest things for me to do, if I could get a friend to come over, who I think my friend Cassidy probably knows enough about men's fashion to know what are the classic things. I could go through all my clothes, several boxes or a closet at a time, uh, put anything that doesn't fit in a pile to go, because I know that my weight hasn't changed substantially in something like 20 or 30 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Uh, I've stabilized, so I would like to lose about 15 pounds. I did get that down to that at one point about a year and a half ago, but it didn't stick. Still, I'd managed to lose about I've managed to lose about 15 pounds at that point. Uh,
So
so
when,
anyway, there's a lot of clothes I could unload. I could get rid of anything that doesn't fit,
yep.
anything, uh, anything I'm just not going to wear because um, I've hardly worn anything other than t-shirts, jeans, and sweatshirts and shorts for years. I've really, I only go to church during Sunday school because the worship service depresses me. It's being around families with children. Um, so I won't throw away my blazer and slacks and a few dress shirts, though I could probably shoot. I don't know. I've heard that there's actually begun from some prominent men uh, that ties may be going away. So I've got dozens of ties from my dad.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'll be able to find homes for him anymore. I don't know if there's any craft that can be done by sewing a bunch of ties together. If I could find somebody like that, I could donate a bunch of ties. I don't want to keep them all. I have other things to remember my dad by that are a lot more personal, and I really don't need dozens of ties.
That's
I
right.
I could get by with 4 or 5 ties tops. So I could unload a bunch of ties.
Hmm.
I'm sure I could unload some sweaters. Uh,
And when you say unload, does that, where are you donating them to? Can you just
well,
donate them to a local charity?
I'm sure I could donate them to a thrift shop.
Good. Okay.
That's what I would do. I don't know if they're back to accepting things. I managed to unload several bins of VHS tapes to the Lakeside Center, which is sort of a community mental health place
Oh,
where they
great.
still have VCRs. They really
Yeah.
need some people to donate uh, multiple flat screen TVs to them, though, because they have it's a minor miracle that they have 2 TVs in the big dining hall. They can both play the same thing from one VCR, but there are very few good seats.
Yeah.
Still, I've I've got a few more boxes of VHS tapes that I didn't know I had.
Okay.
So I hadn't donated them already.
Hmm.
I need to give them a call. That would get rid of one stack that's about 4 feet high and 1 foot square.
Oh, good. Yes. Okay. Okay. That's wonderful. And so it sounds like you have resources to bring things to unload things. And
Yeah,
so that's good. And so you're just not sure if they're accepting things with COVID going
exactly.
on. Mhm.
I think that's a problem with donating anything right now.
Mhm.
Uh, I I know that uh, the CDC and various universities have concurred that pretty much you can let anything sit for 24 hours, uh, so long as it's not out in the cold, which tends to slow down the breakdown of the virus. If you can um, let things sit uh, in a temperate temperature for 24 hours, anything dangerous is going to die.
Okay.
So if they had a room they could put things in to stage things from, they could accept donations.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's what they're doing here. They're definitely accepting donations because we've been taking truckloads out for the last month. And so that's really nice because they've been very strict here in California,
mhm,
particularly in the Bay Area.
mhm,
Our bars and our restaurants aren't open anymore
good.
or still.
That's that's
So
wise.
yeah, and so we're dropping things off, but I know the places I take things to have large storage areas where they can hold things, and that's what they're
Hmm.
doing. They're holding things and everyone's wearing masks and gloves.
Hmm.
And so I'd be
Yeah.
happy to help you research what your local places are doing. Now, do you have a
Well, thank you.
car to take
Yes,
stuff over? Okay,
I do.
good.
I do have a car. I actually have two cars. I, I'm letting my roommate occasionally drive the car that is. It's an absolute miracle. The Consumer Reports uh, said that the 2003 Buick Century was an especially good car, not just for an American car, just an especially good car. And it only started showing the check engine light the last couple of years, and we figure it's probably just carbon buildup in the injectors because I drive so moderately. I now have a
Mm,
2016 Camry, and every
mm.
time I go get onto an on ramp for the interstate, I go ahead and floor it if there's nobody in front of me to burn out some carbon. I
Yeah,
know for that few seconds, my mileage is terrible because the fancy dash screen lets me know.
yeah.
Um,
But so you can take things to donation. You can take
yes,
VHS tapes over to the center you were
yes,
talking about. So that sounds
yes.
really good. So it sounds like you have things that you can work on with us and that I can check on and kind of update
Mhm,
listeners about.
mhm.
What are you working on with Kate? Because I think we should work on something a
Um,
little different.
well, the thing is, um, you're going to have to work with Kate because I can tell you, I can talk all day about stuff, but I
Mhm,
can't. I know better than even lift a finger to try to deal with stuff without somebody present.
mhm. Yeah.
I mean, it's a miracle that somebody just talking with me on the phone is enough to keep me going for a little while.
Yeah.
But I know better than to try.
Okay. Is
I
there
will
some
just get. I went through 30 years of clinical depression, wishing for a terminal illness. I'm very
Oh,
careful not to fall back into that, and that includes not trying to deal with clutter by myself.
wow. That's really nice that you've been able to find people to help you. I mean, you found Kate, you've got your Adventures in ADD group, you've got your role playing group, you've got your me that you're listening to, other podcasts that you listen to. So you're really doing a lot to help yourself. So that's
Oh yeah,
amazing.
it's called my wellness toolbox. That's what the wellness recovery action plan. I can't think of the name of the wonderful lady who came up with it. Um, but basically, the things I do to keep myself healthy.
Yeah. No, that's really
I do a
important.
lot.
I don't think a lot of our listeners here know that you can find someone in the world that can help you at least kind of be a clutter buddy or a body double.
Well,
Yeah.
it took me decades. It's what's really strange and frustrating still is how long it took. I
Mhm.
had that one friend, my roommate, who spent 1 week working at my desk while I cleaned up.
Mhm.
Uh, for when I moved into this house back in '92, it was mostly empty. I had one 8x8 storage unit with stuff in it that I finally moved out and into the house, and I had rattling around room. But
Mm.
I've had uh, 28 years to slowly accumulate things.
Yeah.
And I've wanted to be married with kids at least since age 4. And thanks to my disabilities, I've just, um, we're
Well,
all
I
descended from an unbroken line of people back to caveman times who uh, made choices that resulted in more surviving children and grandchildren. And one thing that women look for rightly is good access to resources. I just didn't have that
mm,
until last year.
yeah. And
So
were
I have
you
been collecting things, I'm sure, as a kind of therapy. It's just a
yeah.
wonder that I haven't collected more.
Yeah, no, because I've seen the photos of your house and obviously I walk into situations that have, 10 times more stuff in there.
Mhm.
So it's not um I wouldn't say it's to the point where it's unsafe or, I'm really worried
Mhm.
about you or anything like that.
I actually
Um,
had the fire department come one time because my dad said my house is a fire trap. So I asked the
mhm,
fire department to come over and evaluate the place. They said there was a lot of fire loading, as in things that would burn.
Hmm.
But they said that was, I mean, if this was a business, it would be legal.
Exactly. And what I noticed is, I mean, you could get in and out in emergency, if you had to jump out of the window. I don't know if you're, if you could, if what you'd fall onto, but your ingress and your egress was not blocked. I didn't see anything on top of the stove. I see piles of papers or paper bags or plastic. I see all sorts of stuff on top of
Ah,
stoves.
I
Well,
never let anything on top of the stove
yeah.
other than pots and pans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
No, your house, and this is something
how
that
do,
I'd really
how do
like.
people do that?
Easily, especially if they use their microwave only, then the stove almost becomes a flat surface. And but then the kitty will
I
knock.
would not.
Yeah.
The only way I would do that, I would buy a sheet of marble counter material and put it on top of the stove
Mm-hmm.
if I
Yeah.
was going to use the stove as storage space. And given the mine is a gas stove, I would pull it out, shut the valve at the wall, push it back, and then it becomes storage.
Yeah. No,
But
no.
I know that gas is even less expensive than using a microwave. It's treated as a waste product by the oil industry. It's Consumer Reports has always said if you can get gas appliances, do it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's I when I looked at your photos, and we did didn't we do a video? No, why you just
No,
sent me
we didn't do
photos.
a video. I just sent you photos.
I wasn't concerned that you were in any sort of extreme situation,
Well,
which
thank
is
you.
good.
It's just
Yeah.
unsightly.
Well, a lot of people
You know,
that I work
it's
with,
at the embarrassing level, but I know it's not dangerous.
good. Okay, good. A lot of people think that their home is a lot worse off. And then I see it and I'm like, are you kidding? It's not to the point where you would fall. I didn't see the clutter too much on the floor, but I mean, you've got two cute cats and they're well taken care of. Like, I just felt like your situation was probably what most people are dealing with, where you're just overwhelmed.
Now,
Yeah.
interestingly enough, among the friends that I've had for years, I ha- uh, I actually know people whose homes are messier
Yeah.
and more cluttered. I had one friend who lived a in part of a trailer. He shared a trailer with somebody. He had one room in the trailer, and it was absolutely crammed with stuff. It was like he was back in the Navy, and he had a rack to
Yeah.
crawl into at night. It was just terrible.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I've kept myself from just saying, well, at least my house isn't like that. I know that's it's dangerous thinking towards uh, being a do nothing. I never go around saying, well, my house isn't that bad because I know somebody else is worse. No, my house is bad. My house is a
Mhm.
mess. I'm not satisfied with it. I
That's right.
sent you a photograph of $100 uh, art piece uh, that I can't find. I carefully put it back in its cardboard shipping box and set it somewhere, and now I don't know where it is.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I have to make sure that nobody throws away any cardboard boxes without checking inside.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, who's there to, it's
I
just
mean,
you
for
and
all
your
I know,
roommate. Yeah.
it's in a drawer of my granddad's desk. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Ex-
I know that if something happened to me, I would have, and my family would have a coal car dumpster outside, and they would just throw things away.
Okay. Yeah. And have you considered getting things in order before that day, that grim day?
I've thought about it.
Hmm.
One thing I'd like to do. My dad left behind a small trust that's going to run out of money long before I run out of time. Um, and the lawyer who is the trustee is an absolute miracle. She was a social worker before she went back to school for law school because she saw an unmet need for parents with disabled children, wondering what was going to happen to their children after the parents were gone. Um, and she and I have talked about me coming up with a will.
Hmm.
And I've written down a few things, but I keep putting it off. With my attention deficit, I am extremely dependent on daily and weekly routines, which is why I needed you to call me today. So, like, hey, it's time for a meeting.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, I can forget absolutely the most important things if they're not routine. And I can't even schedule something like that. I've trained myself every night to stop at 7:30 and look to see what's coming up in the next 7 days, and thus I've created a daily routine to deal with things that aren't routine, and most of the time it works.
Good. Yeah, you have a great daily routine. I know that I asked you, and I'm just going to share. You you like to stay in your happy place. You personally keep clean. You do housework. You keep trash and recycling going out. You get to work on time and you're efficient at work. You feed and water. Love how you put that. You feed and water the two cats and water the house plants. Keep up with email, stay in touch with friends, and then you have a nightly alarm to check your electronic schedule for events that aren't daily or
Hmm.
weekly. So I
Yep.
think that you're doing excellent with your scheduling, especially with your ADD. That's the number one thing that
Well,
will
thank you.
help you remember. No, that's great. And I love that you own it. Um, and it sounds like you have a pretty robust life. You've got all sorts of things that you're doing. I know that you have something coming up soon. So I'm going to get to the good part, which we're going to hold you accountable for. I'm going to hold you accountable for. I took notes this entire time, and it sounds like some easy things to do would be
Hmm.
either going through your clothing, going through your records, which
Hmm.
which has several steps to it. So which one to you sounds more manageable? Is Cassidy available to do a Zoom, or are we going to wait for her to come over in person?
I think we're waiting for her to come over in person. She was actually looking to me and others to help her become more socially involved, but she has just um, cocooned during
Mhm.
this, and I don't blame her.
Yeah.
Uh,
How accessible are
yeah,
your
so she's not really available to help with the clothes.
and that's okay. We can wait for her because it sounds like it's an important social event for her. And the clothing sounds like it's in the closet.
Uh
And
huh.
what about records? How close in proximity can you access a handful of records? Like I'd only like to start with a few.
When you say records, do you
Your
mean
LPs,
papers or do you mean LP? Oh,
LPs.
LPs.
Mhm.
They are all in the basement at my friend's home.
Okay.
So I would have to go over there, and again, I would need to have somebody with me because it's just something I can't face by myself.
Do you know exactly where they are in the basement?
Pretty much, I think I could find them in less than 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
They're all in they're all in one spot.
How many boxes are there of records or of LPs?
I think there are 3 or 4 boxes. Um, they are uh, they're about. I think if they were on a shelf, they would take up about 4 feet.
Okay. But you feel like you're okay with letting those go.
Yeah, there's a handful of them, about 8 or 10 records that I played a lot when I was a child that I would want to keep,
Okay.
and those I have set aside separately. I think those are actually in my home now.
Oh, good. Would you be open to going through 3 or 4 boxes of records with me in short amounts of time?
I don't know how we would do that because well, I I guess it's possible that get um, I could use my phone. I could use mobile data to, or just have you on the phone. But all I want to do, I think what I can do is, um, I think I can, um, just as I said, uh, write down uh, the identifying information on just a small sample of the records,
Mhm.
and then look them up online to find out what kind of money they would go for, if it's anything substantial at all,
Mhm.
at retail. Then look up um, what a local store would buy them for, and if it's reasonable. If I could get 50%,
Mhm.
uh, that would be plenty. I know that's a reasonable offer from a retailer,
Yep.
and that would mean it would be worth it. Basically, I haven't had to pay anything for them, so the only cost I have now is storing them. I realize that's a real cost.
Yeah.
They are only a small part of what's in storage, but it's still um, it's still a thing.
It is. It is. You're paying to store your stuff, and at some point, the cost of storage might over overdo the cost of or the price of value of your belongings in there.
Well, I know for sure that the amount of money that it was my dad who was paying for the storage locker at U-Haul, where I was keeping things for a long time. I kept thinking of it as paying only a couple $100 a month rent. I have been living rent free for um, 28 years. So thinking of it as just a rental cost,
Yeah. Well,
it just seemed a lot more. It was just a lot more reasonable to me.
no, it is. It is $100 a month for storage of that size is very reasonable. Storage can be very expensive. And I don't disapprove of you having a storage because you don't have that garage or attic or basement that a lot of us have. So when you say that you could do this with a handful of records, and then let's look at this more of as an experiment, you know,
Hmm.
and have fun with it. It doesn't have to be every single record in some sort of meticulous list. It could just be 5 records or however many you want to start with, and you can make a list and do the research.
Hmm.
And then you could call your local record store and see what they offer just for those 5. And you could
Hmm.
say, "Hey, I have more that I'm still processing, but I just out of curiosity, what would you give me for these 5?"
Exactly.
And how much time do you think that would take you to go over to the storage, write down, 5, maybe 10 identifying information about the records? How much
Let's
time
see.
do you think it would
10,
take?
let's see, 10 records.
Okay.
I think that would take me about a half an hour there, a half an hour drive there, half an hour drive back. a little time talking with my friends. Realistically, 2 hours.
Okay. And then what about researching on eBay or some other sort of resource on how much it's worth?
I'm guessing that would take it about another hour.
Okay.
That's just a guess. I have not done that before.
Yep. Yeah. But it's good to kind of think, how long will it take? And that way you don't just start and then you have something to do in 30 minutes and you feel rushed.
Yeah.
And then calling the local record store, or would you just pop in? What's
I
probably
would call.
calling?
I would.
Mhm.
These days, I would definitely call.
Yeah. Yeah. With the pandemic, I get it. And then see what they offer. And then, so I think that's what should be our task at hand. And I think realistically, it might even take us a couple months
Mm-hmm.
to do this. I know you have a busy schedule, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to break this up, into phases so it's not overwhelming.
Yeah.
Starting with just identifying the 10 records on one day, and then another day looking up what they're worth, and then
Yeah.
another day calling the record store.
Mm-hmm.
So it's manageable, and look at it like a scientific experiment. It's not what it is you're researching, if it's worth your time and effort to do this. And I think it's going to be really helpful for people listening to see the process, find a goal and break it down into easy manageable bits. And then I want to be holding you accountable if you're okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
And just
understand
quick
that.
phone calls, nothing too obnoxious or anything, but to
Mm-hmm.
see how you're doing on those 3 steps, which are identifying the records. Number 2 would be researching the cost. And number 3 would be going to or calling the record store. So I
Yeah.
would want to hear, how you did, and even maybe send me pictures of those 10 records and what you're working on so that you feel like I'm there for you, because I don't want to use all your phone data just sitting there, which I would totally do while you go through stuff. If there's
Well, I
any
might be able to get. I think for half an hour, I could get one of my friends who live upstairs from my stuff to come down and keep me company for the time it would take to
excellent,
get my notes.
great. That way you have somebody there with you and you stay focused, and just have
That's
them
true
keep you
too.
focused, because
Yep.
that's going to be the most important thing. You might start doing the records and it makes you think of something else and then you forget what you were doing, or you could take a phone
Mm-hmm.
call, or
Yeah.
so you're going to have your friend who lives
Yeah.
upstairs.
Yep.
Good. See, we're getting somewhere. I like this. I like this. And I know that you have something to do. I'm trying to be mindful of the clock so that you have a little
Well,
break.
what I need to do is.
What I'm going to do while Bill is taking a photograph of his beautiful artwork outside is I am just going to look up donation centers in his area to see if they're accepting donations. Oh, let's see.
Hang on a moment. Let me get to where I can see what you see. Yeah, here we go. All right, this was the 2nd of
Oh, wow.
October when the word of the day was WISP, which also stands for Wireless Internet Service Provider. And there was a company called Clear, which gave me $30 high speed internet for like 3 or 4 years. And then they got bought out by Sprint and vaporized and kicked off their
Oh,
system of
wow.
towers. And
Oh,
the
wow.
word is bulky. I cannot take the credit for Grooters, the name of the uh, Vegas fried owlbear wings, but I can
Wow.
take full credit for deciding that my cleric's spiritual weapon would be a camp-sized frying pan
Oh, nice.
that just knocks people out. Yeah, everybody thinks it's hilarious, and the game master says that she's just fine with it. Even lets me hit people from behind, which I'm not supposed to be able to do
Oh my gosh.
because it's just funny.
Yeah. So I will, when is a good time for me to check in with you to see even just when you want to go over to your friend's house? Or can you pick a
Well,
date now? Or are you?
I can't pick a date, but
Mm-hmm.
actually, he called me today because it's past the first of the month, and it's time for me to go over there with money for the basement. I
Mm-hmm.
did go a couple months back. I gave them 2 months money at once so that they would never at any point be stuck waiting for me to show up with money. Now,
Yeah.
I can go over, let's see, I can go over there after work. I generally get done with work by 4:30, so I can be over there by 5, hand them the money, go down to the basement with one of them, um, and the notebook. I'm gonna have to find a notebook. Uh, write down information about a dozen records,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can just drive home, and uh, I'll want to take a break at that point. But the
Yeah.
next morning, I could start looking them up online.
Yeah.
And I would probably only do a few at a time because I'm some of these are so old. Uh, I've with my economics degree, I've read a little bit about the difficulty of making markets with items that are just not regularly being sold.
Mm-hmm.
And auctions are one of the most efficient ways to establish a market price for those things. So I will be looking on eBay to see what things are selling for.
Okay.
Um, and I can look by artist and album title. I'm pretty sure that I probably won't be able to find information on all of them. Um, so if it's going quickly, I'll take notes on more than a dozen albums. I
Mm-hmm.
think 20 would be plenty tops. So
Yeah.
yeah, just depends on how long it takes. Um, I don't even think I have to take them all the way out of the box. Albums used to have that information right along the outside edge of the album cover, so I could probably just tilt my head and write.
Yeah.
Uh,
Should you put it on your calendar or will you remember because your rent is due?
I'll remember because the rent is due.
And how will you remember
I'm
to bring a
probably
notebook?
I know I'm not gonna do it Monday
Mm-hmm.
because it just it there's more work to do on Monday, and I'm already having a tough enough time getting going. Um, Either Tuesday or Wednesday would be fine.
Okay.
I need to call my friends back and ask them what would be a good day for me to come over and let them
That's
know
right.
that I do want to go down in the basement and write down some information about some of the albums that are down there.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that you could make it there before Friday? Like if I called you on
Oh,
Friday?
sure, sure,
Okay.
sure. But I can tell you Friday will be a bad day to call me
Okay.
unless you can call before unless we can be done before 6 o'clock because next weekend I'm going to be in 4 role-playing games. There's
Oh, wow.
the bi-weekly Rifts game on Friday night in which I am playing Dr. Tiny Cat, who is actually indestructible. You can use him to spike a door. You can use him as a blunt instrument. You can firing from a cannon, and I can fix boo-boos.
Nice.
Saturday morning, it's a Star Trek game where we have one player who's way funnier than I'll ever be and is an absolute joy to play with.
Aw.
And we have a good turnout for that game. Saturday night is Susan's Pathfinder game. That's the one where I'm playing Hugh talking to me. Yes, I cribbed the names for all my characters from the Car Talk fake staff member list because I'm terrible at coming up with names. And then Sunday night, I'll be playing with the people I've been gaming with since December '96.
Oh, wow.
And that's 5th edition D&D. That's when I'm playing Everett Opossum.
Oh,
This is the
cute.
car talk name.
Cute. Okay, so Friday, what would be a good time to call you?
Well, I expect to get home by 5
Mm-hmm.
and order pizza. I'll order 2 pizzas because my roommate and I are going to want to have pizza just ready to eat because the first game starts Saturday morning. So if you call me at about 5:30, uh, if my phone is busy, it's just me ordering pizza.
Okay.
Um, uh,
It'll just be a
if we're
15-minute call.
that would be fine. That should
Yeah.
work.
So I'll call you this Friday between at 5:30. If your phone's busy, you're just ordering pizza.
Yep.
And I'm just going to check in to see if you were able to make that inventory list.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Sure.
And then I'm going to send you a list about what we talked about
Okay.
and the 3 steps that you're going to take with the records.
Okay.
And we're going to follow you through this journey and see how it goes. I think it'll be
Okay.
really interesting for people, especially people who haven't sold things before, which I actually have one of my good friends and colleagues, Julie, coming on to talk about selling things in a couple of months. So that's just perfect. And you'll also, would you like a copy of this video, or do you just want to let me air it and you can watch it that way?
Well, the thing is, I listen to you at work, where all I can do is listen as I clean.
Yeah,
Um, uh, I will listen to it again. That'll be interesting.
it will be.
Uh, I don't really think I need the video,
Okay.
but you could go ahead and send it if it's not too big a file. I'll store it on my hard drive, and then if something happens to me, my family has a video of me talking.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was really nice to have you on. I definitely want to have you on once this is over so we can talk about how it went and how it felt working with a coach, because that's kind of what. Oh,
This is Ghost.
hi. Who is
This is the
this?
mom. This is the mom cat. She's the
On.
mom of the other cat.
Is she a tortoise shell or a calico?
She's a very fluffy calico.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh, she's cute. Yeah, my dogs are totally passed out. I don't know if they'll come. Star will come over here now. But so have fun playing your, come here, Starry. Have fun playing your game
thank you. Thank you.
tonight. And we'll definitely be in touch. And I just thank you so much for being so open. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad I can help. I hope that I can help people. I will say that um, when it comes to deciding whether to sell things or not, I know I have to consider what it costs not to sell things,
Ooh, I
which
love that.
means something could happen to them, and then they would be just junk. Um, it costs money to store them. Any one small group of things is only part of that cost. Um, but there are things that I know I'm just not going to get around to. I don't have space in my home to set up a record player, and I'm happy listening to CDs. And really, the only music I make time for anymore is funny music. So I absolutely love Garfunkel and Oates, even though they're not safe for work. They are hilarious.
Well, good, good. And I look forward to speaking to you on Friday.
Okay. Same here.
Okay. Take care, Bill. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, collectors, there you have it. That was Bill. He was totally awesome for allowing me to ask him so many questions. I know that he was in between playing games and right after work today, so I really appreciate his time. And I'd love to have any input if anybody out there has sold records before, if anybody wants to reach out to Bill and see how he's doing with his records, if anybody has decided that maybe they do want to do the same thing and be brave like Bill and air their clutter laundry out on the Hoardganize podcast. I definitely want to provide content that is relevant, that is different, I know there's a lot of organizing podcasts out there, and I really thank you guys for listening to me. I know that I have a lot of loyal listeners out there, and it's been really great getting to know you. And I would still love to interview anybody else and help them set up any goals. I know that a lot of you were interested. And then when I spoke to you on the phone, you were like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to air my dirty laundry on the Hoardganize podcast. Because sometimes we do when I'm working with people and doing my coaching services, sometimes we do get into things like romance or lack thereof, or finances, or trouble with finances. And so a lot of the times when people clutter, it has nothing to do with the clutter. And that's where I get in with my life coaching. And I know this was predominantly organizing related, but sometimes it does get a little bit deeper than that. So I want you to know, if you want to sign up, it can go anyway. I did speak with Bill, and he did have a couple of things that he didn't want me to talk about. And so I made sure that we didn't talk about those things. If you are watching this on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe. I love seeing when I get new subscribers. Click that thumbs up button, hit the notification bell, make sure that you're notified every time I come out with a new podcast. Until next time, collectors, and remember, happiness is a place between too little and too much.